Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, I'd like to welcome you back to another episode of Son of South Podcast. I am your host, Josh Carney, and we're going to have a fantastic episode today. I have my fantastic co-host, Allison Vogus, with me today, and we have a special guest, and we can't wait to introduce you to who our guest is on today's podcast. Allison?
Hey, hello and welcome back, you guys. Yeah, today Josh and I are super stoked about our first guest. We've got Mr. Tyler Jordan with us here today.
Appreciate y'all having me. I'm honored to be the first guest. This is crazy.
Tyler, when we were, thinking about who to have on as a guest, like her and I were brainstorming, and with this here, like we've made so many great relationships in the hunting industry, and like we want to have ambassadors for the sport that can kind of hit and highlight on the key facts of like what hunting means and like how important it is to a lot of us in the community that's built around hunting. And when we're brainstorming, we're like, man, we need people that can present that and present it in a great way. And I was like, let's get Tyler on here. So you were on the top of the list, and we're glad to have you, man.
Well, I'm honored. I'm sure, probably like y'all too. I mean, it's hard to believe. It always seems like every August, here we are getting ready for hunting season. We were just talking about it this morning. We're 2 weeks away from getting in the woods, which is just kind of nuts. It always seems like June and July kind of drag. And then when August gets here, it's like ramping up, getting ready for the season. So we're all geeked up. We've got some deer showing up here in Georgia. We got a group. I'm not going for the first time in a few years, but got a group going to Nebraska here in a couple of weeks. Just excited to get deer season kind of going. It's hard to believe it's already that time.
Yeah, I mean, it's right here. I mean, like September is going to be right here around the corner. And I know for me, we normally start in Kentucky for whitetail. Mm-hmm. And, for me, that with me being from Louisiana, it kind of mixes in between our gator season. So I'm normally bouncing back from gators to whitetails in that beginning of September. So, for me this year, I chose gators over whitetails. So we're going to start with gators and then I'll get back to the whitetails. But, that's just part of it.
The gator is I have to go do with y'all sometime because I've never.
Dude, if you get a wild hair, you want to come down and do a gator hunt, let me know and we'll get you on a boat and we'll take you on a trip.
I would love that. Whitetails has always been kind of. I've been invited by people in the past to go and do the gator stuff, but like when it's deer season for us, it's like we're full speed ahead on the deer stuff and. Mm-hmm. But I know September is a great time to go do the gator. So, maybe one of these years I'll have to sacrifice my deer hunting.
Dude, gator is so fun. And you
can't make a blast.
You can't make whitetail boots. You can make some gator boots, but you need to add a pair.
Have y'all made some gator boots from gators y'all have hunted?
I have not personally.
I'm in the process. I went with my friend Kimberly last year, and I got my first gator, and it was epic. So I'm waiting to get my gator hide back, and then I'm hoping it was a small gator, so they're going to be small boots, but
that's all right. Yeah, I'd be all about that. I love my gator.
No, but shifting back to whitetail, I actually was going to ask you this. What is your strategy for early season? Because I hunt Kentucky as well, and I'm, velvet bucks on my list. Haven't managed it yet, but
people ask what favorite time of year for us is. As far as whitetail, this is probably going to come as a surprise, maybe to some people, but the early season is my favorite, and for several different reasons. One of those is just these deer. If you get lucky, the deer what's still on a pattern, which is really good. Kind of my strategy, it starts in the middle of summer, like July, August, getting these cameras out, hanging different setups. If you're able to, kind of dictate that pattern, and then hopefully the middle of this week, we're going to start hanging the first setups. So, my hope is that, we can kind of get this deer regular, coming to this field, and just trying to, I try to go in early morning, mid-morning, not go in late to let that scent kind of, for the last 4 or 5 hours before these deer start moving, kind of let that scent dissipate. as much as possible. So try to get all the work done early in the day, later half of the day, then get out of there. Really only go in at these spots if you're hunting maybe 2, maybe 3 hours. I try to stay out of there, as far as big stuff as much as possible. Other than those that we go in there. That's kind of a roundabout strategy. It's just, you know, trying to get these deer, not the human scent as much as possible, and then that way when open season does come, these deer are somewhat caught off guard a little.
Man, I'm so excited. Well, I've got a decent deer on camera. I don't know if you can see this guy. Check him out.
That is a giant.
It's a stud.
I know.
So
Where's that at?
here's a funny thing.
Kentucky.
Here's a funny thing, Tyler. Like I was just at her place a week ago. She didn't show me that picture, so like now I'm a little jealous.
I'm not giving my secrets away.
I'm jealous too. When is the Kentucky season open? Is it the third?
I think September 2nd or 3rd. September
Yes.
2nd or 3rd, bow season opens up.
Okay. So is that deer been pretty regular on camera?
At night. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the only daylight pick.
Okay. Okay. Are you going to try to hunt him open and weekend, just depending on what he does?
It's tough because this spot we have is like a couple hours away, and we don't make it there that often. So we're just trying to come up with a strategy right now. Like he's not going to be easy. Where he's daylighting is a really tough spot to get into. Like real tough without busting him, because I feel like he beds pretty close to that area.
Yeah. That's kind of where, so I think if I had a hunch, like on the deer, is it a pretty good amount of acreage that you have on that deer, or like where he's at, or not really?
Not really. It's a lot of farm ground, and there's just a small patch of woods in that area.
I think the deer we're hunting here, I think he's bedding on the neighbor, which kind of makes it a little bit more interesting. It kind of makes, you just have to be a very delicate. I try not to spend a ton of time in that area. It's just bumping him, where he's living permanently on there. But I have not seen him cross the road myself, but we've had people that drive by close to our property that I think have seen him about to cross over to our side. So kind of one of those deals that, man, it makes you, feel like you have to be extra careful on every move that you make.
Mm-hmm.
So,
when it comes to that, especially when they're going back and forth from your property to the neighbor's property, like it makes that game of cat and mouse like that much more of a challenge, because not only are you, hunting that animal in its natural instinct survival, you're also hunting against, your neighbors and their patterns and how they're doing things versus how you're doing things. So, when it comes to patterning a good deer and being successful, it's a big game of cat and mouse. So that makes it all worth having when it does come together, because you're not only outsmarting the deer, like you're outsmarting the neighbors and the other hunters that are in the area. So, that's a big reward when you can kill a great whitetail, knowing that you've put in the work and you've overcome not only the whitetail, but the other hunters around you. So, man, much luck to you.
Yeah, no, big time. I think, I'd read definitely Facebook comments and stuff that people say on my page, or, I'm sure, we all kind of get it, but, I think people that see, and don't get me wrong, we've been super blessed. We have a great piece of property, and, I've been blessed with a lot of really good opportunities on our own farm here in Georgia. But, I think there's an assumption there that, of course it's going to come a little bit easier for somebody like us, or somebody that has a good amount of ground. And I'm not saying that it doesn't. But at the end of the day, it's still a wild animal. These deer, like deer I've hunted in the past. There've been plenty of deer I've been unsuccessful. Where I find out he was killed 4.5 miles away from us, or like this deer, I know he's probably coming off the neighbor. So it's still a wild deer. There's still so much work that goes into it and so much thought process. But again, it's like you said, Josh. I mean, I wouldn't want it really any other way. Do I wish that bedding on my side? Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's rewarding, if it does work out. And if it doesn't, man, that's just hunting, right? I mean, it's what
Yeah.
we, I mean, it's just, I wouldn't trade that challenge really for anything. So we'll see. We'll see. It'll be the moment of truth here in about 3 weeks.
Oh,
Well, and
so
the
season starts early for
strategy.
you guys.
Oh, go ahead.
What's that?
Season starts pretty early for you guys there too.
Yeah, it's September 9th for us. So a week after Kentucky. And typically these deer are still they'll be out of velvet by then. You may have a few that are in velvet. But we should have, probably 90% of them that'll be out.
Well, what I was gonna say was, yeah, the strategy and planning, like where you're gonna make your move, like when you're going in, how you're gonna do it, patterning these deer and stuff. That's half the fun. Like
Oh,
for me,
that is the fun. Yeah, no, and not to cut you off, but I mean, it totally, to me, like, pulling the trigger is obviously great. But like, this is when I love strategizing, like talking to my dad every night, looking at trail cam pictures, trying to figure out where we're going to hang such and such stand, moving cameras. Like, I'm looking forward to going up there today and moving cameras around with the anticipation of these next couple of days, hoping that maybe this deer showed up. To me, that's where you get a lot of excitement out of it. And that's where you get a lot of learning too. Just
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
habits. And what I've learned about some deer is just, especially the bigger ones, is like every one is a little bit different. They all present a little bit of a different challenge. So I'm looking forward to just kind of taking that challenge on and seeing if we can get lucky.
So what's been probably your most challenging whitetail to date?
Oh, most challenging whitetail. You know, so the deer, if y'all may remember, but I shot a really big deer. I think he grossed like 189 2 years ago in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So that deer, very similar to this one. He was very consistent, patternable. Um, went in there thinking opening day, like, man, this is going to be it. Like, this is going to be, I feel like we had a really good wind direction. But the thing about those summer months, especially, is like the wind is so light and variable that, I mean, it seems like the wind kind of goes every which way. It may say it's blowing north, but it could be blowing out of the east,
Yeah.
west, whatever. So I went in there that afternoon, and we were probably in the stand for maybe an hour, and everything was going okay. Wind seemed to be fine. Then all of a sudden, the wind just switched, and I'm talking about deer blowing everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty discouraging. And
Oh,
that
ouch.
that deer didn't even show up on camera, but maybe one or two times for the next weeks. Um,
Wow.
and I actually found out. I found this out after we killed him, but that the neighbor had him for on several pictures during those 2 weeks after we blew him out of the area. So, that was kind of a little bit of a challenge. He ended up coming back to the spot where he was summering at. And, we kind of, very kind of what we're doing on this deer. And, probably why I'm treating this deer this summer the way I'm doing, um, the way I'm doing it now is just, not going in there unless you have to. I would say on that,
Mm-hmm.
I was maybe going in there, and I'm not, and it could have been, it probably had to do with our scent, being in there in person. But I think just, I was going in there maybe every day or every other day. I think the best thing to do is just to kind of, go in there as minimal as possible, where I was maybe going in there a little bit too much, hanging, cutting brush, setting
Mm.
up for every direction. And while that's good, I probably should have done that a little bit earlier. And while that story did have a good, I would say that was probably a little bit of a challenge, was getting that deer back on a regular pattern, or making him feel comfortable in that area again. So that was probably definitely one of the toughest, but probably the most rewarding too.
The funny thing about that is, and you brought this up. A lot of people don't really realize how much of an effect they have on deer by going into their area. Especially if you're not covered down with it, you're not taking the proper precautions, and you're just going there too much. Like, they don't understand like how easy it is to blow a deer out of an area, and that deer leaves for a certain amount of time, and they may not come back into that area for a while because they don't feel safe anymore. And the more you push in there, the more you go in there trying to look for that deer and trying to find out where he's at, or you're just making it harder for him to come back. And some people just need to realize that they need to rest the spot for a while to have that deer come back and feel comfortable. Just kind of like your situation, you got out of there and a deer came back.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say when we blew it out of there that evening, we left it alone, like alone, alone. We made
Mhm.
it there once or twice just to go, just to go feed in there. But like as for anything else, we left it completely alone. So it's just what you have to do. I mean, I think, sometimes you get a little bit desperate, like, man, what can I do to maybe, try to fix this or get this deer more comfortable? Sometimes the best thing to do is just to leave it, for a little bit. I'm very guilty. I'm not preaching. I've made the mistake where I've definitely gone in there too much. And that deer was a prime example of that. Um, I mean, you want to, I think as a hunter, you want to control as much as you can control. And, sometimes you just have to realize, like, man, if I just would let it breathe a little bit, give it a little bit of space, get my scent out of there. I've seen it, I feel like scent is obviously huge, any state you go to, but especially here in the Southeast. I feel like, scent is definitely something these deer just don't mess around with here in Georgia. And, especially with the wind that we had too, like September, October, before you kind of get that first cold snap, the wind blows every which way. So you just have to be extra careful.
Yeah, and we've all done that where we've overdid it a little bit, gone in and maybe put a little too much pressure on a deer because we want it so bad. I mean, you wait all year and you get so excited, and seeing those trail cam pics, it's like Christmas, you know? It's like it's hard to
Yeah.
be
So
patient.
Tyler, so for someone that's going out of state, I know you travel out of state a lot. I travel out of state now, and so you travel out of state a lot. If someone was to get prepared for an out of state hunt, they're not going into that property, they're not doing anything but looking at trail cam pictures on a deer. They prepare for, they go up once a month and prepare to hunt a spot. How do you prepare yourself to do an out of state hunt? I mean, because I know your schedule's busy and there's multiple hunts that you go through and do. How do you prepare yourself for picking a location and setting up on a deer out of state?
That's a great question. I mean, that's what makes this time of year so busy and important. I was just in Kansas last week, getting stands hung, cameras, and, some of that work. Um, we talk about hanging stands here the next couple of weeks, but that's because I have time here. But like in Kansas, the season doesn't come in till the 1st of October. But I know my September, my August, it's going to be primarily around this Georgia season. So, the best thing to do is, like, especially for the first time you go into a new property, you almost got to take a little bit of a stab in the dark. Maybe talking to locals too that are familiar with, maybe time of year. If you have somebody that's familiar with that property, and like in Kansas, where we just were last week, luckily we have some people that are familiar with that property. Well, I've never hunted it before. I have some people in the area that have hunted it and kind of know what the deer do. So we hung up 4 sets, put out some cameras where the deer where they have been in the past. But that's the thing is, like, we see it here too. Is like deer change up their pattern every year. Just because they did something last year doesn't mean they're going to feed in the same spot this year. Like, I know 2 of the cameras, I have not had a single deer on it yet, and it's been out there a week. So that's not great. But that's kind of I think it's a lease that we're on. So luckily we have somebody going back in September that where if these deer are not up, maybe, they'll have time to go out there and, set out cameras again and move them around and hopefully pick up some deer. But, I would say just trying to learn as much about the area, um, about the property, if you have any intel there. But if you're going somewhere for the first time, it's kind of just a guess. Like
Mhm.
Brian Brown and Pitts are going to Kentucky this week, and a place they've never been before. Um, but they're taking stands, taking cameras, but a lot of it's just kind of guessing. Trying to even this time of year, seeing trails. Setting if there's some fields. Putting cameras on some edge of fields where it looks like maybe there's some deer trails that um, border some of these fields just to see what's coming in there. Um, so that it's kind of tough, but that would be kind of my best advice is just to go up there and if it's a new property, just trying to learn as much as possible.
So going off of that, going into new property, you just found it, you haven't set eyes on it, kind of going in the dark. What's your strategy? Do you look at like Onyx map, or do you look at some kind of a mapping system to try and figure out where you're gonna place your stand and how you want to hunt that place?
Yeah, I mean, all of it. I mean, all the above. I mean, like Onex is what we did here in Kansas last week, is just trying to figure out where these deer might be bedding, and finding any kind of like pinch point that maybe these deer are coming through from the bed. Um, Onex is obviously just a great tool for all of that,
It's a
but
game changer. Sorry.
it is.
Hmm.
It is. But again, even with Onex too, as much as information that it has, it's still a little bit of a guess. You're still kind of guessing where these deer are. But we were able to find so much what we think is pretty good bedding on this piece of property. But you really are not going to know until maybe here over the next few weeks to see if what if your guess was correct. But I would say looking at Onyx, seeing what kind of crops are in some of these fields, um, trying to find the best entrance points in some of these fields where you think these deer are coming through, and setting out game cameras. That's kind of the best that you can do right now. And then obviously if you have somebody that's maybe in that area, they can even help you manage some of that, like, and help you maybe go move some of these cameras, or if you have somebody that can kind of go scout for you one night, um, that helps too. As much intel as you can get before the opener, the better.
So I know we wanted to talk a little bit about Realtree. I think Josh had a few questions lined up. But yeah, kind of tell us what's going on in the Realtree world right now for you.
Yeah, it's been really busy. I know we talked about it before the podcast really got going here, but summer is such a busy time for us. I mean, obviously we're getting ready for deer season, getting ready for filming, but just the business side of it, there's just a lot going on. Summer, kind of a little bit of a slow period as far as traveling. So we spend a lot of time going to visit licensees, key accounts. You have the fishing side of the business that's done really well the last few years. ICAST was a few weeks ago. So the fishing stuff's been great, but that's kind of consumed a lot of our time. And we're leaving tomorrow on a work trip through Thursday. Going to visit just different partners of ours. Not for the show side, but just licensing accounts. So um, got a lot going on there, and then just getting ready for hunting season. And we're also working too on a pattern launch. We got a new pattern happen in 2024, so we'll release that in at SHOT Show next year. So looking forward to that. So just a lot of planning efforts that have gone into that. Um, building a lot of different marketing campaigns around this pattern. So it's been really busy around here, but a lot of fun. So looking forward to this season, and announcing the pattern when the time.
Yeah, that's really exciting. Can you tell us anything about it? Are you
I sure can.
I love how she just tried to slide that in there just a
I'm
little bit,
like,
like.
dang it.
Yeah, I will say stuff is, you would think it'd be a lot quicker than what it is, but like when Dad develops a pattern, and we have a really good team in here that works with Dad, and it takes 2 or 3 years, for the pattern development side of it, and
Yeah.
just making sure it blends in as many environments um, as possible. We do a lot of testing and different kind of lighting. We've taken garments all over the country testing, Southeast, Midwest. Um, it's been tested everywhere, different times of day. So I can tell you this will be a whitetail turkey, a big game in some cases pattern. Um, so I'm excited. It'll be really good. I mean, I feel like it's so funny. Like whenever Dad wants to come out with a new pattern, I'm like, why? I feel like we've already done a very, you know, on the camo side, but he's a constant perfectionist when it comes to camo. He just always thinks that he can do better than his last. it's like an artist in a way. He just always thinks like, man, I think I can do this and this better. I want to try this and see if it works. So, um, definitely excited about the launch, and hopefully y'all will be. Are y'all going to SHOT Show?
We don't know yet.
That is one
Poss-
show I have never been to is SHOT Show, and I keep talking about going. Maybe this is a year or
Yeah,
2024.
yeah. It used to be a lot more like growing up for me when I started going. It was probably 60-70% hunting.
Mhm.
It's like hunting's a very small part of it now. The outdoor side is very small. It's maybe 20-30%. It's a big gun show overall,
Mhm.
but still a really good show. I mean, just about any company in the industry, attends in some way, shape, or form. Even if they don't have a booth, it's just a big, big B2B show for us. So, that's when we'll make the official announcement uh, theirs during the show. So we're
So we know that you can't tell us any details about that, but you did mention something about the old school camouflage, which is what you're wearing now. Can you give us a little
yeah,
bit of a rundown on that?
yeah, yeah. So I mean, the old school stuff, I love it. I mean, this is what I want to wear pretty much all the time.
Yeah, same here.
And I think for me, like, and y'all can probably relate to this, is like it's a little bit nostalgic in a way. Like this is this camo pattern right here is the first pattern I wore when I shot my first turkey and my first deer. And so like
Awesome.
I love wearing it. And it has just an old school feel to it.
Hmm.
Now we brought back Academy is bringing this is an Academy shirt actually in the Magellan line and Advantage Classic. And then we're also doing some Advantage Classic and Realtree Original stuff that's on our website right now. We have just a couple of companies that will be bringing stuff in 2024 for turkey and Realtree Original and Classic. They'll also have this new pattern that I'm talking about. Um, but I think we live in an industry that's all about heritage, legacy, and when people see these patterns, it just brings back a lot of good memories. You may have seen your dad,
Hmm.
your grandfather wear it, grandparents. So like I find myself as I get a little bit older, like gravitating more and more to these old school patterns because it just brings back, you know, that old school feel and good
Yeah.
memories, good times when I was a kid. So I think as you see our company kind of progress over the next few years, you'll see these legacy patterns become more of a staple into what we do, which I think, I haven't heard any complaints yet. I think, everybody's, it's been well accepted so far.
Yeah, that's awesome. I absolutely love that. My parents, they were moving a couple of years ago, and my dad had some of his old camo, and my brother got to it before me, but it was like the Realtree vintage pattern. I'm like, I'm gonna steal that back. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love that you're bringing it back.
I go buy, it's so funny. I go buy stuff on eBay all the time. Full of old Realtree. It's my favorite stuff. Like it's funny the stuff that only, the stuff you never thought would come back in styles, here
Mhm.
back
Hmm.
old faded Realtree Original or Realtree Extra Gray shirts or Advantage Classic shirts. Like I wear that stuff to the office all the time. I wear it out to the work. Um, so I think it just kind of proves like there's a market for that. That guy that
Mhm.
does the camo,
Hmm.
Logan, that camo retro is like he said last year, he had his best year in business since he started camo retro. But that doesn't really surprise me because vintage camo is just cool.
It
Yeah,
is.
no, I agree with that.
People just like it. So we're excited to bring a couple of these back. It'll be fun.
Well, we look forward to getting into some vintage camo because I mean I got some custom hats and some old school camouflage, and honestly, that's been my favorite so far. With rebranding, that's been my favorite. It just like you said, like it reminds you of the old days when your grandpa and like your uncles and everything would go out and hunt, like that old campfire. It brings back memories of growing up hunting. So like I definitely love the old school pattern. So glad you guys are bringing it back.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. It's like you said. I mean, it almost reminds you, maybe it may just be in our heads, but you just thought, man, as a kid, just it was better times back then, So
Yeah.
these patterns kind of bring back those feels and those memories. So, anytime we post like a picture on social media of somebody wearing something old school, it's like we get at least several comments that are like, man, bring this back. We want to see this come
Yeah.
back. We're answering. We're slow to answer, but um, we're trying to do it as best we can, and hopefully everybody likes it.
So since y'all are bringing things back, I think y'all need to bring back the old school skits like TK and Mike, like the comedy stuff of hunting. I know Pitts did a really great job of bringing that comedy aspect to hunting with Realtree. I think you'll need to bring that back because that was really incredible.
Which one are you referring to? Is stuff with T-Bone?
Yeah, so Pitts when he was going through and doing like the pretty much the comedy thing.
Yeah,
For me back in the day, do you remember TK and Mike? Just
I,
like the hunting special comedies where
yeah,
they would go out and do hunting trips and make it a comedy show.
yeah,
Those little skits are so great to me because it relates to people where hunting is, you need to take it serious, but it's not as serious as a lot of people make it out to be. And having those little fun moments where you can cut up and laugh and joke about certain things, I think those are the greatest things ever because it makes it feel like where you're not so pressured to be, the greatest whitetail hunter out there, the best hunter in the field. Like you get to relate to other people, just have fun with it.
yeah. Well, I mean, y'all know this too. I mean, most of the people that I feel like probably own a hunting license, it's not like they're just the most hardcore person ever. And that's, I can't sometimes, even myself too. I love to deer hunt, but I wouldn't say just all the time I'm hardcore. I mean, it's fun more than anything. It's a life.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, and we take ourselves a little bit too serious, maybe as an industry. But at the end of the day, this is just plain, um, it's what we all enjoy doing. It's kind of even though it's a job in a way, maybe for me, but it's a getaway, it's an escape.
Hmm.
Out. And so I do think some of those skits, like whenever we do it with Pitts, it's why people find that so it's been popular and funny for folks. It's just because, man, it's not all serious.
Yeah.
This is fun in games too. So, we have some Pitts skits, some more of them that we've written. We just have to activate it and find time to shoot them. But those, whenever we announced it, it did do really well. So, um, even some of the old school Monster Bucks DVDs, we had it with Travis,
Hmm.
Michael, and T-Bone would get in the costume and put in his fake teeth. And like,
Yeah.
we're not DVD as much as we did back then, just because times have obviously changed. But I think there is definitely a place for that. If we were to bring it back, just because if people found that really relatable and funny.
And one of the people that does it very well, and I just remember this, but Rut Daniels, he does that very well, and a lot of his content is still based around. I mean, he's a great hunter. He's successful in the field, but he's also a great entertainer and keeping people involved in hunting to make sure that it's not as serious. Like we can still have fun with it. We could bring comedy to it, and he presents it very well. And Pitts does as well too. So, like I said, if we can focus on bringing more of that back into the industry and community, man, I think hunting will be so much enjoyable for a lot of people because a lot of people take it so serious when you just need to get back having fun.
No, I agree. I can't disagree with you there. I think so. What I was saying was that I think Bud and Pitts both. I mean, they kind of poke fun at the guy that takes it way too serious, and I think that even though we love to do it and take it serious and have a lot of fun, you know, I think as I tell stories about hunts that I've been on or like my most enjoyable hunts, it becomes less and less about the size of the deer, and it's more about the people that you get to spend it with, uh, and that to me is just kind of what makes all this worth it at the end of the day. Like what I wouldn't trade for anything is like talking and strategizing with my dad. It builds a bond there. For us outside of work or anything else is, we're on the phone looking at Spartan cameras at night
Hmm.
and, trying to come up with a strategy for the next day. So, it's a lot of fun, and not so serious all the time.
And I wanted to mention that earlier when you were talking about how, back in the beginning, we were talking about strategizing and how you were looking at cameras with your dad. And like, that's such a neat and like personal thing that you get to do. And it's, something like hunting, that's one of the great things about it is it brings people into your life or reasons or like a hobby and things for you to do with one another. Like hunt camp is one of my favorite times of the year. I go with my father-in-law, my husband, like we have great conversations around the fire. We have a lot of laughs. It's just a great thing that brings us all together.
And like that's what I love so much about this time of year is really spending time with people that I want to be around. That we all want to be around. That we all love to do the same thing. You know,
Exactly.
very little is it always about the memories, which we all love
Hmm.
getting a big deer, getting an opportunity to hit a turkey or duck or whatever it is. But it's that camaraderie that if it wasn't for that, I honestly don't know if this is something I would want to do solo all the time. I just don't know if I have that desire. I like bringing people in this orbit. That's what's
The great thing about Realtree, I've been a part of Realtree for a few years now, and the thing that I notice most, it's family. Just sitting there looking behind you, like you have the pictures of successful hunts with people that you've been in the field with and you enjoy, and the camaraderie of it. Like that's what you guys focus on. I think that's what makes you guys stand out from a lot of the other people that are in the industry, because you guys focus on building that foundation of family based in the outdoors, having those campfire stories or those camp memories, making it enjoyable, like it's always been. Like it's not all about the game of inches. It's about having that good time with family, friends, and camp, and enjoying and sharing those hunt stories and being successful. And I say successful, and I don't mean harvesting an animal. I mean just going out and having a good hunt, having those moments with friends, and enjoying each other's time and company. Like that's what I look at as success. Killing an animal, harvesting an animal, I think that's an added bonus. But being able to get together and have that fellowship with different people and having that relationship built over years in hunt camp, I find that is success. And Realtree really focuses on that, and you guys highlight that very well. And that's always been a core value of the company, and I love that about you guys.
well. That means a lot, and I think like our motto is family, friends, and the outdoors. And let's be honest, 90% of the time we're going out here and hunting, we're unsuccessful. I say, we're not shooting a deer, we're not shooting an animal,
Right.
because if it was only about that, we'd probably not do it. You know, More often than not, we're spending a lot more time in the woods than we are shooting a deer. Because my wife's always like, "Man, you've been gone for 2 weeks. Why have you not?" But that's if it was all about the shot and the opportunity it it gained, I don't think a lot of us would be doing this. There's way more to it that we get out of the experience. My best friends all love to hunt and fish. That don't work at Realtree, and I think that's just because we all love this commonality that we share of spending time in the woods together. And my weekends are we go on some trips, but most of my weekends this time of year it's on the farm. It's just because we love to do it. As we love outdoors and enjoy this lifestyle. So no, but you summed it up really good. It means a lot.
No, and another thing, so I've watched Michael. I mean, I adore Michael. Michael's always been an idol of mine. And, it's good to be friends with him now because, like I said, he was a role model. And, like, being in the industry and being with Realtree, it's kind of built that relationship. And, what he focuses on, he says, is, stop making it so serious and just hunt. And, like, I love that he pushes that model because, like I said, a lot of us get so serious and so caught up in the fact that we want to kill an animal so bad that it's not as enjoyable because we don't hunt. Like we're obsessed with making sure that we get an animal before someone else does and all this other stuff. And it takes the fun out of it for a lot of situations. So I love the fact that he pushes, hey, stop worrying about the game of inches. Stop worrying about, trying to be the biggest and baddest out there. Stop trying to be, the guy that goes and, throws his big elk on your shoulder and packs it out. Like, stop worrying about being Billy Badass and just enjoy the sport for what it is. So
Yeah.
I love that.
I mean, and that's how most people are that hunt. Man, that's how most of these hunting people are, man. That's, we're all, I mean, we all have a lot in common with one another, I mean, yeah, I mean, hunting is for the everyday person in my, um, so we try to promote that as best we can. Mike, obviously, a message when it comes to that, but, uh, I do think sometimes this industry or sport sometimes tries to be way too serious with it, but, um, we're all having fun at the end of the day. I hope we're all having fun. If not, we're just not doing our job good enough. I mean, that's what hunting's supposed to be about anyway. It's the chase and the pursuit. And, more often than not, it's not going to end up with a dead animal on the other side of it. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, you ask anybody that hunts, even the most serious hunter, a lot of times that deer is going to get away or that turkey is going to get away, but that's okay. And that's not, at the end of the day, that's not the only reason we do it.
Exactly. That's such a good point. Uh, there's a lot more to it.
Tyler, I've watched you for some time, and I really enjoy watching you spend time with your little brothers and like your little sister, like teaching them outdoors and that next generation getting them outdoors. For me, that speaks volumes because we live in such a world to like where that is becoming less of a factor, in society to where they're not focusing on getting a lot of the youth and kids in the outdoors anymore because everything's so structured towards video games and technology nowadays. So seeing you in a blind with your little siblings, man, that's incredible.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I had several really good deer hunts last year, myself, and I mean this, like if I could take all of them away and only do one of them, it'd be the one where I was with my little brother and my sister. Like I love, spending time and sitting in the blind with them and trying to teach them as much as possible because that's what Dad did for me, and Dad does a good job with, does a good job with them too with some of that, but getting the youth involved and if they're interested in exposing them to this and maybe at the end of the day, maybe when they in 4 or 5 years they may not love it, but I mean right now they really enjoy spending time out there and always ask to go. That's how I was as a kid. um, but yeah, it's like my little brother, so they both are at the same school that I went to growing up in high school. And like in my grade, I graduated with a pretty small class of like 72, 73 people. And that's about, the size of their class. But, there was probably, you know, guys and girls, there was maybe 12 to 15 of them that hunted and that were, pretty passionate about it. But like, I know in my sister's grade, like even guys and girls, there may be like 4 or 5, and my little brother's kind of the same way. He's got a couple of buddies that, love to hunt, but there aren't a ton of them that are exposed to it or that have the chances to go. And like, there's that's a whole other reason. I think the access of land, people lose clubs,
Mm-hmm.
whole another separate set of issues. But I guess that's kind of the point is like, there's just not much opportunity out there for a ton of people, which is pretty sad. Um, but, that again proves that trend that it's becoming maybe less and less, of a thing that people do. Um, so trying to expose like even some of their friends and taking them up to the farm or, putting them in a deer blind doesn't mean they have to pull a trigger. But, we've sat in a deer blind with plenty of Colton and Grayson's friends that they just want to be there. They just want to experience it. They don't even care about pulling back a bow or shooting a gun, but, I think the more you can expose and like, not putting pressure on them, but maybe then they'll ask questions like, man, how could I get involved? How could I, want to do this if I chose to do it? So, yeah, no, I mean, yeah, we try to do the best thing by them, but um, exposing their friends too, where they have that. Because for me, it was always about that community of people going back to school, talking about it with. They don't have as many people, in their classrooms at school that kind of do the same thing. So that worries me a little bit. But their family, we try to do as much with them as we can.
That's great, and that's what it's going to take too for us as hunters to just get more people involved, especially the younger ones in our community. That was kind of the reason I wrote a couple of children's books. One's called Chasing Deer, one's Chasing Turkeys, and I wrote that to help try and get more youth involved in the outdoors. But you got to have ways to open those doors of conversation for kids, get them interested, get them out there. And so just by doing that, what you're doing is huge and will definitely make a difference. So, and that's
Yeah,
also really important for the future of Realtree.
Yeah.
no, for sure. It's important for the future of this whole industry too. I mean, it's not just us. There are a lot of companies that fall into that. I think that's something that kind of keeps me up some nights, for the future of
Mm-hmm.
hunters. Like, it saddens me that like their classrooms have less and less people that hunt compared to even what I did, which was not that long ago.
Yeah.
There's like a 14-year age difference between me and my sister, but it feels like such a gap. Um, just because they don't have as many people, they go to school with now that live the outdoors like a large group of my friends did. So that's a whole nother. You can really get in the weeds on that topic. I
Yeah.
do think finding access for people. We've got to figure out as a whole, like, how do we get access for hunters? Um,
Well, thankfully, there are people out there trying to find some remedies to these issues and people working, you know, in different groups, and hopefully in the future they'll come up with some solutions for us.
yeah,
But we've all got to be maybe a little more involved and try to be a little more outspoken about what we want and what we need. Um,
we we do, like, and like I'm going up there, I think, in September, if not September, October, at one of their events. But the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation lobbyist group out of Washington, and that's something I want to ask. Is like, man, what are we doing? Like, to ensure that we have hunting in states for generations to come.
yep.
Because I see in our area, it's not good. People that are hunting public land, um, or people that want to go lease, that want to be on a club membership, like they can't find access. So what are we
Yeah.
doing to help some of that? Um, yeah, I mean, and like, even this is somebody I know that really doesn't like Realtree. I may not be familiar with him, but it's Matt Ranella. But
Oh,
even that, Steve Ranella's brother, and like that Hunters for Access is something he's talked about, and I need to go learn a little bit more about that. But if Matt maybe wasn't so combative with the industry as a whole, like, he's very, I just think, has a very combative mentality.
mm-hmm.
But like, if he didn't, like, I would love for like more companies like ours to get involved on programs like that. um,
Yeah.
or maybe other people to deal with on the Hunters for Access, and I think they're doing that Hunters for Access in Montana right now. But I would love to see like that program expand into other states. Um,
Absolutely. Yep.
how do we grow something like that? So, you know, again, not easy, um, not easy answers. It's going to be hard to find solutions, but I do think like we're going to have to come together as a whole and figure out ways to improve um, this lifestyle, because let's be honest, for a lot of people, it's not a lot of fun for them right now. I hear it all the time.
Me too.
Uh,
Yep.
and that stinks to hear that. Really kind of breaks my heart, honestly.
Well, I hope you have some luck in Washington when you're there. I hope, things start moving in the direction they need to go. And listen, Josh and I could talk to you literally all day about this, about hunting in general, but I know you've probably got some things lined up you need to get to.
Oh
Some
man,
people
well,
are wanting you to call them back, but
yeah,
we cannot thank you enough for joining us today. Oh, and I will say, pattern idea 2025, I guess. Maybe, you know how Michael, like Nike made a shoe around Michael Jordan, maybe y'all should consider like a special edition Son of the South camo pattern.
That would be. That would be.
See,
I'm full of
that's why I
ideas.
love. That's why I love how Absalom. Like she's one of those people that's gonna like throw out great ideas, but like unselfishly. Like I did not expect that at all to come out of your mouth. But you know what? I'm happy about it.
I love that. I have to have a conversation on doing do or something.
We'll just
We'll be
put like
looking
the little
forward to it.
like we'll put like the little wheelchair symbol on it and like make it handicap accessible for everybody.
You can hide it in the pattern somehow.
Yeah.
Like I'll be like an I Spy Josh. You know how in the Jordan shoes it's got like a silhouette of Michael. It'll be like Josh's.
I can already see the logo.
Oh, but can you see it? I mean, it's probably going to be brown. It's probably going to blend in.
Is it? Are you talking about you wanting to develop your own shoe or on pattern or both?
Oh, maybe both. Definitely pattern, but maybe we could get that pattern on a shoe.
Okay, so listen, here's the deal. I, as a paraplegic, I don't know if I will be the one to represent a shoe line. I don't think I'm the one for it. Great idea.
Thanks.
Great idea. We'll bring it to the drawing board. Great idea.
Well, you just
But Tyler,
come in here and help us brainstorm on it anyway.
You're welcome.
absolutely. Allison, it was Allison's idea, so we'll have to come down there and figure it out one of these days.
Well, I hope y'all, make a visit down here sometime soon. Anyway, would love to have y'all. Maybe we can pick up on the second podcast in person.
Perfect.
I think that would be get Dad on here, but maybe during turkey season, deer season, whenever. Would love to have y'all down here sometime.
Absolutely. And like I said, that offer still stands for you to come gator hunting whenever you want to. Just give me a couple days in your September and we'll make it work.
Perfect. Well, we're definitely going to make that happen. That'll be, if not, probably not this year just because I'm really busy in September, but next year we may have to put something on the books.
We can make it happen.
So excited.
Awesome.
And thank you again for this great conversation today, Tyler. We really appreciate having you on.
Thank y'all. Look forward to talking. Good luck this season.
Hey, Tyler, before you go, where can people find you and just kind of give everybody a plug?
Okay. So I believe, so the show that we're doing, we've done it for the last few years, Realtree Road Trips. I believe it's just, the handle's just at Realtree Road Trips. Nothing in between those. I think it's one word on our handle. And then at Tyler Jordan on Twitter, Instagram. Then I think it's maybe Tyler Jordan Official on Facebook. But, we're going to start off here in Georgia. Me. Road trips will be in Nebraska with a group of people. September 1st is when the season comes in. We go to New Mexico, October 1st to the 5th, and then Kansas. Hopefully that with deer will show up. But that's kind of where we're going to be starting off. And, we're excited about the season. And for anybody listening, good luck to everybody. Start of the season. Allison, good luck on that deer in Kentucky.
Thank you. I'm going to need it.
Please keep us updated on how that goes.
Okay.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. This has been an incredible episode. Tyler, thank you so much for joining us right here in the Sun and South podcast. It's been great. It's not going to be the last. It's the first, but definitely not the last. We'll get together soon and we'll have some more fun and, we'll brainstorm on seeing how we can make something incredible happen and keep this industry going and how we can make this great for the future. So we appreciate you being on the show. And definitely congratulations on all your success and good luck for your future endeavors.
Thank you, Allison, Josh. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Yes, sir.
See ya.
Later.